Let's do an update on Social Security benefits, this year's COLA, how much benefits could go up, and when we expect the administration to announce how big that COLA increase is going to be. Now, there's been a lot of speculation with inflation being so high. There's been a lot of groups saying, you know what, COLA could be 11%, 12%, 10%, especially earlier in the year when inflation was really high. Remember, COLA is tied to inflation. The worse inflation is, generally the higher COLA increases are going to be as well. Now, one problem we have right now is, well, first of all, in this video, we're going to talk about what the expectation is now with what COLA is going to be, how big benefits increases will be, and this should be around $1,600 to $1,700 per year in an increase in benefits for the average person. We're also going to talk about exactly when they're going to officially announce this and kind of what's going on, what could affect this one way or the other. Before we jump into it, guys, like, subscribe, especially if you've been following my content from the beginning. Thank you so much. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, but we're going to start posting content regularly again. So let's jump into it. So when will the Social Security Administration announce the 2023 COLA increase? Well, we don't know for certain, but we have a really good idea. See, last year they announced what the COLA would be on the same day that they announced what the September inflation data was, that CPI data. That was, I believe, on October 13th. It's going to be October 13th again this year. So the expectation is, again, no promises, but what we're hoping for is on October 13th, when they do release the inflation data for September, which that is scheduled for, we're hoping that on that same day, the Social Security Administration will announce exactly officially what the COLA increase will be for 2023, right? Remember last year, that's exactly what happened. So we can speculate that hopefully that's going to happen again this year as well. So right now we're kind of holding, we're holding on to our horses here. We're hoping it's released on October 13th. Again, if we have any updates, I'll keep you guys posted. But as of now, that is the general expectation. Now, what is this increase going to be, right? Like we said, inflation was a little bit worse earlier in the year, and the expectation earlier in the year was that it was going to continue to get worse. So then groups were saying, you know what, with inflation coming in at 9%, I believe 9.1 was the peak, maybe we'll get a COLA of about 9%. Then some groups were thinking inflation was going to keep getting worse. So people thought, you know what, maybe COLA would go up even more as well. We might end up getting a 10, 11% COLA. Well, now with the recent data, as you guys have potentially seen, inflation has been slightly going down, right? We're like in the 8.3%, 8.5%. And now the expectation is that potentially it could stay flat or even slightly go down. And remember, the way COLA is calculated, it's from the third quarter of every year compared to the third quarter of last year. So kind of working against seniors is the fact that inflation was worse earlier in the year, but that's technically not going to be part of the calculation when they're calculating COLA. It's going to be Q3 of 2022 compared to Q3 of 2021. And now we're expecting inflation to potentially go down. If you look on your screen, it's been ticking down slightly, right? Basically, if inflation had peaked in Q3 of this year, that would technically be better for seniors, and that would kind of more reflect the actual inflation seniors have been dealing with. Now, one thing we talked about on this channel for a couple of years, honestly, back, when the pandemic first started, the whole stimulus era started, we talked about the fact that seniors, specifically people on SSI, ssdi, Social Security, they should be getting a 10% COLA every year for at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, because really we need to double Social Security benefits to get it to what it used to be. Now, since about 2002, so the last 20 years, the purchasing power of Social Security benefits has been cut in half. And that's because seniors typically have expenses that the general public doesn't, right? They have more medical expenses. Typically, a larger percentage of their income goes to their rent or their mortgage compared to the average person who's still working. And because housing has gotten more expensive, rent has gotten more expensive, medical expenses have gotten more expensive, more than general inflation has, these COLA adjustments haven't been keeping up. Now, if you look on your screen here, these are the COLA adjustments from 1950 all the way to 2013. So unfortunately, this doesn't go all the way up to 2021. But if you look from 2013 all the way back to 2003, we had COLAs of 2%, 2.7%, 4%, 3%, 2%, 5%. We literally had no COLAs in '09 and '10 during the Great Recession. And, I think seniors could attest to this, right? I mean, even though inflation was at about 2 to 3% generally, seniors with medical expenses, right? Seniors with a larger percentage of their income going to rent, which has been going up more than inflation usually lately. I mean, they have really been taking a hit, right? And unfortunately, even though we're probably going to find out on October 13th, where the expectation is that the COLA is probably going to go up somewhere around 8 to 8.7%. That's the expectation. And if that happens, the average person's benefit is going to go up between $1,600 to $1,700 per year. That's great. The problem is that would have been great if they would have done that in the beginning of the pandemic, right? Started doing that right away because, this 8 to 10% COLA we've talked about annually, that's great. But inflation's worse now, right? So basically it's just keeping up with inflation at best, probably not even doing that. And then now seniors are basically ending up in the same place they were before. Now, unfortunately, obviously, like the stimulus era is basically over, right? I mean, we still have Yahoo Finance posting articles talking about there's like local stimulus at the state, city, and county level, right? If you really dig deep, you can find these little stimulus plans that'll maybe give you a couple $100, maybe $500 at the local level. But nationally, I mean, we're not getting any traction when it comes to helping seniors or approving more stimulus. And really, what's going on now is the midterm elections, right? And with inflation being so bad, obviously Democrats passed their inflation stimulus package or whatever you want to call it, but that doesn't really directly help the people, right? There's all this pressure on Democrats to not approve more stimulus checks because they could make inflation worse. Now, with midterm elections coming up, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Do Democrats maintain control of both chambers? Do Republicans take control of one or both of those chambers? Even if Democrats maintain control, does it even matter with Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin basically blocking anything that has to do with increasing Social Security benefits? We'll have to wait and see, folks. But this is really the biggest thing coming up. Obviously, we also still have that geopolitical conflict with Russia. We all know that's been making inflation worse, but surprisingly, gas has been going down for a few months, but inflation has still been relatively high still because rents are going up and food is going up, folks. So seniors need this COLA more than ever. And again, we're expecting October 13th to find out exactly what COLA is going to be, but I will keep it posted as soon as we find out. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. And again, for those of you who have been watching from the beginning of my channel, thank you so much. We're going to be posting regularly again as well, and I'll see you on the next one.